We've got a housing crisis on our hands, and it's probably not what you're thinking. So if you're thinking about buying a house, this is the video that you need to watch and understand so that way you can best strategize your game plan to get your foot in the door as soon as possible so you can be successful in the real estate world. My name is Seanu Uyehara. I'm an area manager with Geneva Financial, helping you finance your homes all across the country. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned investor, I created my channel to help you understand the ins and outs of the housing and real estate world so you can get the best deal and help you grow your real estate portfolio. My team and I are licensed across the country, so whether you need help with a purchase or a refinance, you can hit the description below. There's a link to my email or more information on how to get your mortgage right. And if you enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I appreciate all the love and the support from all of you out there so we can keep spreading the knowledge and the education to help more people to get their foot in the door and become homeowners across the country. Now, the housing crisis that I want to talk about is not affordability. Even though that is a big problem right now as interest rates more than doubled last year, it's something that we're all dealing with within the industry. The other thing I really want to talk about, not many folks are out there talking about this right now, and it's the low housing inventory. What does that mean? That means that there's not a lot of homes for sale. A lot of you are on the sidelines hoping and praying and wishing for a whole slew of homes to just hit the market so that prices can drop. But I've been saying this for a long time. I don't think that the banks are going to make that mistake again. And that was one of the biggest mistakes they did during the 2008 housing crash, was that they foreclosed on a ton of homes. They took them back and they flooded the market and started selling them as soon as they could. However, because there was so much inventory, homes would sit on the market longer than what they would expected. And then you had a lot of people, especially here in Las Vegas, they were vandalizing the houses. People would pour concrete down the drains and run the water and literally flood houses. People would steal the copper from the HVAC units. People would just squat in the houses. They would break in and just claim that they lived there. So there were so many of these other things that were taking place that prevented sometimes the house from even being sold. But why this is such a big problem right now is that the demand that's out there far outweighs the amount of homes that are available. Now, yes, we're heading into the spring buying season where typically more sellers are out there willing to sell their house. However, the problem that we're facing is that so many people that bought houses before COVID got really low interest rates. And a lot of you that own houses right now, if you did buy during that 2020 season and 2021, you're probably sitting at a 2 or 3% interest rate. So when you look at the market where we are today, why would you sell your house and give up the 2% interest rate to take on a 6 or 7% interest rate today? Unless you really have to buy and there is an extreme motivation or reason that you have to do it, you're going to hesitate. You're really hesitating right now. And that's why so many of you have reached out to us about doing home equity line of credits, doing a cash out refinance of your house because you don't want to lose your house to buying another property, taking on a higher rate and a higher payment. So all of these would-be sellers that typically enter the market are probably thinking twice right now. So again, all that inventory that would have normally come out probably won't hit the market this year. It's a little too early to tell, but my prediction is I don't think you're going to get as many sellers that want to sell their houses unless interest rates come down to the 5% range. And then I think you will see a lot more sellers get off the sidelines. They're going to start selling their homes. But then as a buyer, you got to remember this. If rates come down, there's going to be more competition. There's more people on the sidelines right now waiting for that to happen. So you have to make sure that you are putting yourself in a position to be successful, meaning get your credit score up, start saving more money, and get rid of all of your stupid expenses. Because if you still have all these extra expenses, you're never going to be ready when the time comes. Because if you think about what happened during COVID, when interest rates went down to 3 and 2%, there were multiple offers on homes. The minute a house went on the market, if it was amazing, it had 50 offers. You didn't even need to know anything about real estate. If you were a realtor back then and you could sell a house, you probably in your sleep made $100,000 that year. So if we go back to that time frame of seeing 5% rates, I can guarantee you there's going to be so many people that come off the sidelines. I've got an entire database of people that I could call that will be ready to buy all across the country. So being that this inventory problem is causing prices to not drop as much as we would all hope, this is something that we have to understand as a buyer as you're sitting on the sidelines because it's basic supply and demand. If you have a low amount of supply that's on the market, meaning 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 months worth of inventory, that's technically what we would call a seller's market. So in a seller's market, the seller typically dictates how the transaction is going to go. They don't have to give you closing costs. They don't have to give you any credits. And They make the rules. But once you get to maybe like the 5, 6, 7 months worth of inventory, that's where you're kind of at a balanced equilibrium type market where buyers and sellers can work together in harmony to get deals done. Anything over 6, 7 months, that now becomes a buyer's market. So the buyer, you hold the cards, you can negotiate because again, you are the one that's controlling the transaction. But the quirky thing about the market that we're in today is that there's very few homes for sale. However, the buyers are still holding the cards. And why is that? And the reason is interest rates are a lot higher than what we're all accustomed to. Last year, when rates went from 3 to 6%, so many of our clients decided not to buy. They renewed their leases and they continued to rent. So that then eliminated a lot of the buyer pool, a lot of the demand that was out there. But now the homes that were for sale weren't getting as much activity. Why? Interest rates went up. So now as buyers are serious about buying the house, that seller of that house is getting more desperate because every week that the house sits on the market, they're not getting any showings. The agent might be doing open houses, but guess what? No one was going to open houses. Or maybe you're getting 1 or 2 people a weekend. That freaks the seller out. So what are they going to do? They're going to reduce their price. They're going to offer credits. Just like towards the end of 2022, I told you on my channel, I said, if you're thinking of buying a new home, this is the time to do it. Why? The builders were offering so many incentives to get into their homes. One of my agents I work with got the builder to reduce their price by about $90,000, and he also got his client about $20,000 in closing costs. So when you look at that, $100,000+ incentive credit, however you want to look at it, to get into a house, that's massive. You were not hearing about that during COVID. You heard that the house was listed for $900,000, but it sold for over $1 million because someone sold their house, cashed out somewhere across the country, moved and paid cash for the home, or they financed it because the rates were so cheap and they were willing to overpay on the house. So all of these things, you have to understand the mechanics of what's going on out there in the real estate world so you don't get left behind. Now, even though in some markets we are seeing some pullback, it's not a crash. That's one thing you have to understand because during COVID, everyone overpaid for the house. That didn't necessarily mean that the house was worth over $1 million because if you got an appraisal on the house, the appraiser wouldn't have said it was worth $1 million, it was worth $900,000. So you overpaid for the property. Now, all those people that overpaid drove the values up, and that's what we've saw come back down over the last several months. So it's not that the market's crashing. The market's literally going back to what it was in 2018, 2019, which is totally okay. It's just those 2 years during COVID, it was just insane. Never, ever, ever in my career did we ever see 20% appreciation in a year. That was just unheard of. And of course, that's never sustainable. So for those of you that got in during that time, kudos to you because you got some equity. But you can't go into it thinking that that's going to happen again. And that's why this inventory problem that we have today is such a big problem because where's the inventory going to come from? If you have sellers that have no incentive to sell a house today, you eliminate that crowd. So what else is left? You have the new home builders. Yes, they're building houses, but why would a builder flood the market with more inventory if they're the only people that can bring new inventory to the marketplace? If I put out one house and I can get 10 people to make an offer on it, that's great. I can drive the price up. I'm never going to fulfill the demand because then I'm eliminating profits for myself as a builder and as a developer. So this is where, again, the problem lies. The inventory is constricted. They're not just going to flood the market and say, hey, let's just go slap up another 100 houses so we can sell more properties faster. We don't need to do that. They can release them in phases of 10. And guess what? Every new phase, they charge more money for the house. So this is where that problem will also be something that's going to be recurring as we see over the next few months if interest rates don't come down. But yet again, if rates come back down, all of you buyers on the sidelines are going to go right back to the builder. But then guess what they're going to do? They're going to take away all the incentives because now they know that you're coming through the door and I don't need to offer you the stainless steel package or pay for your closing costs or help you with a 2-1 buy down or some of these other tactics that they're using to get you in the door today. And this last thing that's contributing to the inventory problem is Wall Street. This is the one thing that really annoys me because there's nothing that's being done to stop these guys, whether it's coming from the government or local organizations or whatever. We need to get together as a community to fight and put some sort of guardrails in place because these billion-dollar companies are coming to cities all across the country and they're buying up single-family homes. They're putting them into rental pools and then trading them on the stock market. This affects both you and I and our ability to own and become homeowners. I would love to buy more rental properties, but in some markets across the country, these hedge funds are coming in and buying up thousands of homes at a time. So those homes that were once potential homes that could be counted towards our inventory gets taken off the market. So every single month, as more of these homes get gobbled up by Wall Street and investors out there, it's leaving less opportunity for you and me to buy into the real estate game. For a prime example, let's take Atlanta. Look at this screenshot here. This was an article that recently came out that talked about how many institutional investors are buying homes in the Atlanta market. Invitation Homes owns over 11,000 homes. Progress Residential over 10,000. Main Street Renewal over 5,000 homes. Tricon Residential over 5,000 homes. And American Homes for Rent over 5,000 homes. You can see all these companies are literally coming into your backyard, depending on where you live, and they're just buying up properties. The media will never talk about this. This is the stuff that gets swept under the rug that unless you're in the industry, you might not know what's going on. But this really annoys me because they are driving up prices not only when it comes to buying houses, but for those of you that have to rent. Because think about it. Let's say some of these companies own thousands, in fact, tens of thousands of homes in one market. They can control the rental market there as well. If they all decide to increase their rent by $100, you have no choice but to pay it. Because guess what? The next house that's available, they probably own that as well. So how difficult will it be to get away from the institutional owner to find maybe like a mom and pop owner like myself that's a landlord that maybe, you know what, I'd be willing to work with you as long as you can pay the rent and take care of the house for me. I might be way more susceptible to working with you than corporate America. Now, I think there are some solutions out there. I think that maybe if the government can come up with some sort of plan to increase more affordable housing, that way these developers and these builders are incentivized to build homes and build starter homes for folks that you can get your foot in the door. Give out more funding to some of these first-time home buyer programs to help more people get into their house. Some of these programs can subsidize your down payment, your closing costs to be able to get your foot in the door. But a lot of them are running out of money. For example, California had a program called the California Dream Program that literally ran out of money within a week or so. So you have these programs that are great, that are really there to help people get their foot in the door, but because they don't have enough money, they can't impact enough people to get them into their house. So I think at this point, you have this almost stalemate of homeowners that need to be incentivized somehow to sell their house, whether it's a tax credit or something to get them to sell their property. Hopefully interest rates come down here in the near future. That will also get more sellers to want to sell their properties. But to me, that's not going to be the fix, because once rates come back down, buyers hit the market again, it's going to start driving prices right back up, which is the one thing we're all trying to avoid, because so many homes are becoming out of reach for the average buyer out there to be able to afford them. This is a big problem, and I don't know what's going to change it. I hope at some point the president, Congress, the government can step in, stop Wall Street from buying up all these properties and taking them away from you and I to be able to buy. Maybe incentivize them to then sell the homes back to us at some point. Maybe there's more inventory there. But as long as Wall Street has got their hands in the residential real estate market, it's going to make the inventory problem a lot harder. And I really don't see why builders are going to build more homes faster just to satisfy the demand, which again leaves you and I competing to buy homes out there. If you have any great ideas of how we could maybe fix this, comment below. Would love to hear it. And you know what? Hopefully one day things can become a little more affordable for everybody so they can enjoy home ownership.